Welcome, sport fans. Welcome, sport fans. Welcome to IFE's 25th season celebration. So we're honored to be here in this magnificent, glorious home of Ambassador Coopersmith. And I want to welcome our special guests, my great friends, Justice Breyer and Meghan Smith. Thank you, Meghan, being our third USCTO to speak with us.
When I started in my Supreme Court job, which was 22 years ago, I could have, of the 70 cases, or 70 to 80 cases we really fully decide in a year, maybe found one or two where I could in honesty say, to decide this case, we better know something about what goes on outside the United States. Today, in response to that same question, I would say 10 to 15%, 7, 10, 15, that's a lot. That's a lot. And what I've written about is what they are. And why do I write what they are? You know, I'm forcing people to read this law. My God, how can you do it? But the reason is simply this. It's in English, I think. The point is this, that this economy, terrorism, civil rights, treaties involving abduction of children. I mean, marriage today crosses boundaries all the time. And a host of other subjects where if I don't know something about what's happening abroad, I can't do my job.
It's been extraordinary to come to DC. I got to give the MIT commencement 2 years ago, and I told them, you got to go two places as techies. You got to go where there's tons of us. You advance the field, it's crazy, that's Silicon Valley, that's Boston, that's Austin, it's increasingly here in DC too. But you also have to go where you're rare, which is what we're experiencing as the technical folks who have come into government with this president. We have over 400 people who've come, who built Amazon and Facebook and Google and Twitter and Dropbox. They didn't know they had a seat. The president made a seat for them. It's not like they know better or worse or whatever, they just know something to add to the architecture of the economist, the lawyer, the techie, the operator, the communicator. So we want to play with the whole orchestra and not leave out the brass, right? We want to have the whole orchestra, and that's what we really want for our children. We want them to have critical thinking and computational thinking. So that's what, we've been really driving for, and we've gotten to do extraordinary things.
We normally have 9 justices, but that has not been true in the entire history of the court. It started out with 6. And for a number of years, there were just 6. And then during the Civil War period, for a while, there were 10. And then they went down to 7, and then they went back up to 9. I mean, so it's floated around, and Congress has some power to decide what it is. With 8 people, the risk is that we'll split 4-4. And that happens some of the time, but not too often. The reason we take a case, typically, is because the lower courts have come to different conclusions on the same question of federal law. That is, what judges do is they take some words. The words are in a statute of the Constitution. And if 2 or more judges in the lower courts have taken the same words in the same place and applied them differently, then we're in business. That doesn't happen all that often. We probably have 70 to 80 cases a year. And there are millions in the courts, probably hundreds of thousands or so that involve federal law, Congress, and the Constitution. So of these 70 or 80 cases, when we decide them, they're tough cases. Good judges have come to opposite conclusions. Well, probably half the cases we decide during the year were unanimous. You wouldn't know that necessarily from the newspaper. But it's true. And of the 5-4 decisions, which they like to write about, because sometimes there's some political content or social content they get, are about 20%. Not the same 5 and not the same 4. In many of the times. But what you will get in the paper is quite often they write what their readers want to read. And they would not be in business if they didn't do that. So it's much more uncertain than you might think. All right, of the 70 cases, Nino Scalia was a good friend. We all get along very well. We're good friends. And I've never heard a word in that conference room raised in anger. Never. Never heard a voice raised in anger. never heard one judge say something insulting of another. 22 years, never. And we all got along. Nino, I miss him a lot, and so do other people. He was fun. And the fact that we disagreed on some things, well, then we do, so what? So he died in February. From February to the end of our term, at the end of June, we were 4-4, and thus couldn't decide the case 4 times on 2 issues that were probably front page issues, and on 2 issues that they wouldn't even write about, they're so technical. And that's the situation. Okay, so what happens if we're 4-4? It's as if we never heard the case. And whatever, it just goes on without us. So you can make up your own judgments. I'm not going to characterize that. It's obvious that the longer the time we got our 8 members, the more of those cases there will be.
And the internet is not really a whole bunch of wires and digital things. It's just us connected. And so there's a different world that can emerge. We've always been connected in different ways, but this new way of being sort of present with each other. And so it really gives us an opportunity to use those tools and those assets to really work with each other in new ways. And so the president created the CTO job, and Anish and Todd and myself. The job is an interesting job. It's an advisory disruptor kind of entrepreneur job. And it's how do you help the president and his team harness this power of data, innovation, technology on behalf of the American people and the world. And a lot of times when I think about it, and we've thought about it, is it's really about unlocking talent. Because if the talent was unlocked to do what it passionately would want to do, and how people would collaborate on all the complex topics that you were just talking about, it's really in answering these, we're going to do them together. People are interested in different things. And if you can unlock the talent and passion of a person to do what they're interested in, across 7 billion plus people, we're going to fix a lot of stuff together.
As Coach said, we have a free coding camp available to kids. It's on USC's campus each summer. Kids from the surrounding area can come to campus. They're working with myself and USC computer science students, both undergrad and graduate students, to learn how to program. It's for all ages from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, and primarily we focus on underrepresented ethnicities, low-income families, and girls.
Well, first when I came to the camp, I didn't have much experience, but by the end of the week, I programmed Pac-Man, and I learned a lot more than I did. And when I got back, when I went to school, I told all my friends and I told them they should do it next summer. And I got a lot of opportunities, like Girl Scouts. When I went to go and tell my Girl Scouts about it, Girl Scout Council found out and asked me to volunteer and help other girls with coding. And then I got this wonderful opportunity to come to Washington and travel on my first airplane